Hello, women's basketball fans. Welcome to the new BasketMedia365 podcast with me, Pierre Ploszajski. We will be focusing on the FIBA EuroLeague women's power rankings during these first few weeks and expanding from there and having some fun with more women's basketball talk. But let's not waste any time and let's get into these official FIBA EuroLeague women rankings ahead of week number 3 of action in EuroLeague women. Ranked number 1 in this week's power rankings is Ekaterinburg. 2 weeks into the season and as many wins for the reigning champs and red-hot favorites to defend their title. With Ekaterinburg, at the beginning of each season, it is always a matter of knowing if they came up with the best roster ever in EuroLeague women history or not. This year is no different. The chemistry seems to be working fine early on with all players contributing. The ball moves well and players show unselfishness. 3 players are averaging between 5 and 6 assists a game. Kyla McBride is back to her lead scorer ways, shooting already 50% from 3. 6 players average between 9 and 16 points and 4 between 7 and 10 rebounds. The danger comes from everywhere. Ekaterinburg should have no problem next week against Orenburg on the road to make it a 3-0 start. And basically, it is hard to picture any team causing them trouble until the end of group phase. Bourges and Prague should be their biggest test before the playoffs. All this while we still wait on Junkel Jones' debut in the competition. Number 2, we have Dynamo Kursk. Lucas Mondello's team nearly escaped a major upset on day 1 against TTT Riga, but eventually prevailed by the smallest margin thanks to the impact of their newly signed superstar Brianna Stewart. Warned and aware that they would have to bring their A-game every week, they showed great discipline and focus against Flamcarolo this week, doing enough to always maintain a comfortable cushion, much helped by the MVP-like performance by Sonja Petrovic. What a luxury to have Stewart and Petrovic together on the same team. Arguably the best small forward, power forward combo ever. It's still early in the season. More chemistry needs to be built, especially knowing that Tina Charles just recently joined the group and that Epiphany Prince has not yet played. The positive aspect is that most players know each other well from prior teams. Marta Shargai and Sonja Petrovic until last year were side by side at USK Prague, where they won the EuroLeague women title. Shargai, Cruz and Mondello have of course the Spanish national team connection to build on. Brianna Stewart and Tina Charles are both Team USA members and are just back from the World Cup in Tenerife. Petrovic and Prince spent the season together back in 2012 with the Chicago Sky. And finally, Prince and Charles played together for the New York Liberty in the WNBA. Next on Kirk's schedule come the Greek underdogs of Olympiacos. Hard to predict anything but a Russian victory. At the number 3 position in the power rankings this week, we have USK Prague. It's rather a flattering ranking after 2 weeks, but being one of just 4 remaining unbeaten teams gives you that privilege. After losing over the last 2 seasons big names such as Zawi, Palau, Shargai, Petrovic, Bonner, or Dupree, one can consider Prague in a transitional phase, handled as well as possible by the expert attention of Coach Heikova. This season's new signings are concluding so far. Teja Oblak is solid at the point guard position. Ayayi is as versatile as ever in her first experience outside of France and will be keen to prove everybody the quality player she is after a disappointing World Cup. Finally, the addition of WNBA All-Star Alyssa Thomas might be one of the best signings of the summer. The forward bringing along all the power, talent, and impact she is known stateside for. Back-to-back weekly best performers nominations are an early warning for Prague's opponents. One issue Prague could face is lack of rotation, particularly under the hoop. In case of foul trouble or of an injury, the trio of Thomas, Rejan, and Hanuzova could prove a bit too thin. If they are to make a long run in the competition, they will need everyone to contribute, especially Leticia Romero, who starts her 2nd professional season and is on a mission after missing out for the first time since 2014, a Spanish national team campaign, and after a subpar first season in Prague. She looks in great shape so far, but needs to find consistency. This week's test against the informed Bourges will help us evaluate Prague's real level much more accurately. Talking of which, number 4 comes Tango Bourges. While some teams have suffered quite a turnover over the summer, others enjoy a relative stability. Team chemistry can be a difference maker at this early stage of the season. Bourges is one of those teams to welcome back most of its main players from last season, headlined by Maureen Johannes. With an unbeaten record and 2 convincing wins led by the informed Johannes, Bourges looks set for a strong campaign. They might lack size in the paint, but their depth and team defensive skills should help them stay highly competitive. After their impressive day one win on the road at Polkowice, they are now about to get their biggest test to date when they go against fellow EuroLeague women powerhouse USK Prague. Ranked number 5 in this week's power rankings is TTT Riga. Great return to the competition for Riga, who, for the record, to this day, is the club with the most titles in EuroLeague women history, with the incredible number of 18 titles, of which 12 consecutive ones between 1964 and 1965, when they were led by women's basketball legend and Hall of Famer Uliana Semenova. A heartbreaking yet encouraging 1-point loss on home court against title frontrunners Kursk on day 1, followed by an impressive road win in Turkey at Hatay last week, should give Riga enough confidence they can compete against anyone. Led by their impactful point guard Shai Petty and with some solid backup from their Latvian core, particularly Vitola and Krislina, Riga will host Salamanca this week to try to break to a positive record after 3 games. Number 6 comes Sopron. Much better outing by Sopron this week against Olympiacos after the disillusion of their initial day false start against Flam Carolo. Coach Iniguez will be satisfied by the variety of weapons at his disposal against the season. The danger comes from everywhere. After 2 games, 7 players contribute between 9 and 16 points a game, led by the electric Ivan Turner, who is having a tremendous start to the season. The team looks very balanced with solid rotations at each position. Salvadores is slowly living up to her youth sensation reputation. Center back up, Bernadette Hattar might be one of the most underrated centers in the competition. Peggy Vernecki is as reliable as ever in the backcourt. Plus, Tina Janovic is expected to join the team around Christmas time to give even more inside depth and experience. Add these players to the leading cast of Dupree, Zawitz, Vrendakic, and Turner, and you will find out one of the best built rosters of the whole competition. Next for Sopron is a trip to Istanbul and Fenerbahce, where they will be inspired to claim a statement win against the struggling Turkish side. Candice Dupree will certainly feel extra motivation going against one of her former teams. Number 7 comes Perfumerias Avenida Salamanca. Another team that benefits from roster stability is Avenida, who ranks 7. Is this stability enough to explain how they went from averaging just above 60 points per game last season, reaching the 70-point mark just once, to a team that already scored twice 80 or 80-plus points? It is certainly a mix of stability, experience, and passion that allows Avenida to perform well early in the season. All 5 players averaging double-digit in scoring so far are returnees, all seasoned veterans. Eldebring, one of their 3 signings, is 0.5 points short of becoming Avenida's 6th player in double digits. Well, now that's some team effort. Solid veteranship and passion should get them a long way this season. But this week, passion was certainly the main ingredient to their comeback overtime win against Fenerbahce. A passion initiated by the players on the court, led by the priceless Silvia Dominguez, and frenetically amplified by the amazing crowd of Pavilion Würzburg. Fenerbahce might have lost the game more than Avenida won it. Nevertheless, it's that kind of hard-fought win that sets the tone for a whole season. An intriguing test on the road against the early season surprise package of TTT Riga is next for them, meaning a return to her homeland for Putnina, a player who has the potential to add even more to Avenida's depth, but who hasn't yet had the opportunity to prove it on the court. Ranked number 8 is Hatay. They have been blowing hot and cold after 2 games. They started with a convincing and solid win against Avenida, only followed by a disappointing outing against Riga. Individual talent is not a matter. Paris, Ben Abdelkader, Snitsina, Jones, Gajic, Johnson are all fantastic players. The problem is that they're all players who love to create for themselves and take responsibility. When the shots go in, then there's no issue. But when they aren't falling and the team needs to come up collectively with an answer, things get more problematic. In the Riga loss, their backcourt rotation combined for 5 assists only, on 15 total for 30 baskets. Everybody knows Hatay's players' worth, but in order to have a successful campaign, they will need to be more than just a sum of individualities and learn how to move the ball better. A big test lies ahead with a road trip to Flam Carolo this week. Talking of which, Flam Carolo ranks just 1 spot lower at number 9. The debutants launched their season the best way possible, beating last year's runner-ups Sopron on day one and giving a good fight the full 40 minutes to Kursk last week despite defeat. Holly Peters looks in great shape. Kalina Mosquito-Lewis is one of the biggest outside threat in the competition. Carol Casas plays some of the best basketball of her career. Budera, with 8 assists per game, is the second best passer in the league. Flam Carollo can cause trouble on any given night. They have nothing to lose and everything to prove. Playing at home this week against Hatay should give them extra confidence to potentially come up with another upset win and make of them one of the potential surprise team of the season. Coming next, number 10 is ESBVA Villeneuve d'Ascq. Big turnover for the team this season with just 4 returnees. Without any major stars and with a balanced group of experienced players, Coach Duzard will emphasize ball movement and strong defense to try to secure a few wins this season. The game against Brain wasn't pretty, but getting a first win will allow the team to host the struggling Skio with less pressure. Johan Gomez is yet to play the season, but the late bloomer Magali Mende is showing good form early in the season and will try to carry her team past Skio. Ranking 11 in the power rankings is Fenerbahce. An unconvincing win at Olympiacos, followed by the heartbreaking overtime loss in Salamanca last week, and Fenerbahce already faces early pressure, especially with the informed Sopron being next on the schedule. Like for Hatay, individualities are not questioned. The likes of Vera Mayenka, Vadarli, Plum, Sotana, or Zandalasini are all class acts. It's rather the way they lost composure as a team in the fourth quarter of last week's game that raises questions. Also, while they have plenty of talent at the guard position, they seem to lack another strong small forward to back Zandalasini on the wing. It is hard to fully evaluate Fenerbahce's level at the moment since some key summer signings are yet to play, like Kia Stokes or Bria Hartley. Too early to call the situation alarming, but Coach Garnier's side would be inspired not to fall into a negative dynamic after facing Sopron. Number 12 this week is Castor Brand. The Belgian champions are back for another season in EuroLeague Women as underdogs. In order to be successful, they will need Carly Samuelson to shoot the ball well with consistency. She delivered on day one against Skio, but lost her touch last week against ESBVA Villeneuve d'Ascq. Celestran Davies brings passion and athleticism, night in and night out. Mariana Hortis is showing great form for her return to the competition at the point guard position and will next face her former club, CCC Polkowice. Should the latter and Hamblin start impacting more, and Brent should give the Polish side a hard game. Talking of whom, next in the rankings is CCC Polkowice at number 13 in the rankings. Their 0-2 record should be history shortly, as they faced a very complicated schedule to start the season with, losing to Bourges and Ekaterinburg in the first 2 games. Timing was not the best for a team that returns only 2 players from last year and would certainly need a little more time to build chemistry. With the quality of signings, they should become a very hard unit to face. Facing underdog Brain this week should allow Tiffany Hayes, Jasmine Thomas, Lidem, Kaltsidu, Fakbenle, Gaida, etc. to bounce back from their 0-2 record. Ranked number 14 is Famiglia Weber Skio. Major concern early on for the Italians' reigning champions. Lavender and Gruda are looking anything like the commanding anchors they should be in the paint. Losing almost all of their big guns in the off-season was already big enough a challenge to face, but if the newcomers don't step up, it could turn into a long and complicated season for Skio. This looks like a transitional year for Skio, who lost Zandalasini, Maki, Rice, Miem, Yakubu in the off-season. This week's game on the road at Villeneuve d'Ascq appears already crucial. Number 15 is Nadezhda Orenburg. They're on the verge of going 0-3 with Ekaterinburg being next on their schedule. The Russian side needs to take care of the ball better and feed Brianna Jones, who has been terrific in the first 2 games when she was getting touches, averaging a big double-double of 14 points and 11 rebounds a game so far. Igor Varide brings leadership and impact in the backcourt, but they need other players to step up and contribute offensively with consistency. Maiga and Shilova should be among them. Finally, last team in the rankings, ranked number 16, is Olympiacos. It's great news for Greek women's basketball to be represented in EuroLeague Women. As it is the case with their national team, they always fare as underdogs, and people tend to forget how skilled and how smart their basketball is. Big heart, smart defense, and strong fundamentals help them stay in games and cause trouble. They have nothing to lose in the competition, and with quality players such as Pavlopoulou, Sotirio, or Mazic, there will always be a hard opponent. Kursk, who only won by 1 point against Riga, will take them very seriously for sure.
Okay, so a big thanks to Pierre there for all of that information. Very interesting analysis of this EuroLeague Women Power Rankings. My name's Paul Nilsen, aka at BasketMedia365. And just to break things up a little bit, I'm just going to be talking about my ups of the week, the things that I think have either impressed me or just the things that have really caught my attention. And I'll be doing that pretty much every podcast. So I think, first of all, we have to say congratulations to China, who have just taken gold down in Bengaluru at the Under 18 Women's Asian Championship. Great win over Japan in the final. It's good to see Chinese basketball on the rise. We've seen some good young players playing in the FIBA Basketball World Cup in Tenerife. Some really exciting talent. It's been a little bit lean at the senior level, but fifth straight under 18 Women's Asia Championship. And it's great actually also that they've also seen off the move of Australia into the zone. Obviously, Oceania zone now defunct, and that's merged in recent years with the Asia zone. But there's going to be a lot of disappointment, I guess, in Australia. I suppose that they've only managed to finish third. But for me, this is probably a real crystallisation of what it means to be in this new zone. I think it's good for Australian basketball overall. I think that this is not a wake-up call. That's probably too harsh. But I think it's very much the case that in the past, if they didn't play well, maybe against New Zealand, who are obviously the only and main rivals, then they could maybe get away with being a little average. But you're going to really get bitten these days if you're playing against Korea, if you're playing against Japan, if you're playing against China, or even in the future, even Chinese Taipei, those types of teams. So I think it's an opportunity rather than a threat for Australia, and that's the way when they break down and analyze what happened. At this tournament, I think it's send a wider message to Australian basketball, Australian youth basketball. It is a step up to be playing these Asian teams. So, congratulations to China. A lot of food for thought for Australia, and a really interesting tournament. So we'll be seeing involves next year when, ironically, the under 19 basketball women's basketball World Cup will be actually in Asia, in Bangkok, in Thailand. We'll be there to cover that. So now at a club level, I have to give absolute props to Dora Medgiesi, who handed out an incredible 17 assists last week for Miss Colts. And really, that number was just, I mean, it was sensational. I was going back through the Euro Cup women archives trying to find when the last time that any playmaker or anybody handed out 17 assists. Phenomenal performance. Obviously, we've got this issue actually when we're comparing all-time assists. There has been some changes, I think, to the way that statisticians have categorized assists. So I'm not quite sure whether it's comparing apples and pears. That would probably be quite harsh on Dora, but congratulations to her. Absolutely fantastic performance. She's a real fun player to watch. And actually, in Eurocup Women last week, there was another great performance which really caught my eye, and that was Serbian centre Dragana Stankovic, who swatted 7 shots for Big Gush in their Eurocup Women game. And I had to go back a long time as well for that, looking in the archives, actually, all the way back to 2012, since somebody had a game high 7 blocks. That was actually, I think it was Astu Ndor was the last person. So congratulations to those two. Really caught my eye. Great job. Two very good players. And just finally, just to explain that this is just a little bit of a trial by me and Pierre to see whether you all enjoy some women's basketball talk. We're going to improve what we're going to do. We're going to try and get some players and coaches involved in time, maybe even get some video embedded, really to try to take it to the next level. So we're just messing about really at the moment, but we do appreciate any feedback, any help, any support, because we know that anyone who's listening to this no doubt loves women's basketball. So we appreciate you taking the time to listen. We'll be back hopefully next week, if not the week after, with our second attempt to break down some things women's basketball. For now, you can check out us on all the usual channels. Go to the BasketMedia365 Facebook page, give us a like, keep in contact with what we're doing, and also our respective Twitter accounts as well. And please follow all the official FIBA and other women's basketball hashtags. The women's game needs you. We love it, and we hope that you can get more people to love it as well by promoting what these tremendous female athletes do. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.